Hey, Summit Chasers, welcome to another episode of Voices of Impact, the podcast where you learn strategies to amplify your influence, impact, and how to take action towards your own purpose and mission. I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Mark Myerson, an internationally renowned orthopedic foot and ankle surgeon and the founder of Steps2Walk, and he is joined by his CEO, Tom Ferro. Together, they discuss the evolution of Steps2Walk, a humanitarian organization committed to giving the gift of walking and changing lives through surgical missions and education. We dive into the heart of their mission and why education is vital in expanding reach. Get ready to be inspired. It starts right now. Hi, everybody. Today I am with Dr. Mark Myerson and Tom Ferro of Steps2Walk. I'm so excited to have you guys here and just dive into what it is that Steps2Walk is doing. So, to kick us off, Tom, can you go ahead and just introduce yourselves to us? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, my name is Tom Ferro. I'm CEO of Steps2Walk. I've been in the orthopedic industry for 25 years, many of which working closely with Dr. Myerson on the business side of orthopedics. I recently became CEO of Steps2Walk in January of 2022. And have been here now for a little over 2 years.
Amazing. Thank you. And Dr. Mark, over to you.
And I am Mark Myerson. I am an orthopedic surgeon, and I am the president and founder of Steps2Walk.
Awesome. And then, Tom, who is Steps2Walk? What is your mission? What do you guys stand for?
Yeah, first of all, we're a 501c3 humanitarian or foot and ankle organization that we focus on really two aspects in our mission. The first aspect is we conduct surgical missions in underserved regions around the globe in correcting disabling foot and ankle deformities in children and young adults. Essentially, we give them the gift of walking. The second part of our mission is education, and that involves a whole host of different educational programs that we offer, and Dr. Myerson will talk about those during his discussion. But essentially, we provide educational service to educate those local surgeons in the underserved regions that we serve around the globe.
That's incredible.
To date, we've done about 1,700 surgeries. Wow. We train annually 600 surgeons in our educational components of our mission. We operate in 24 countries. In 2023, we did 11 programs. 2024, we'll be doing 16, and next year that number will increase further.
Wow. So you guys have massively expanded your reach, and that is so incredible. Those numbers are amazing. And I love what you said about...
hats off to Dr. Myerson on that. That's he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to dive into how you've been able to expand your reach this far, too. But to start us off, Mark, take me back to the beginning. What actually made you want to become an orthopedic surgeon?
True. I love that. That goes back a bit far. I love working with my hands. I love reconstructing things, and I have this weird ability to see things in 3 dimensions. And if something is really crooked or deformed, and in this case, foot and ankle, I love just putting it all together. So, yeah. You know, my career as an orthopedic surgeon was in many different phases. Not only was there the clinical side of my work, which involved patient care, but also the professional and academic side. I was very involved with education, research, writing. I written 7 textbooks on foot and ankle surgery and published numerous research manuscripts. And I'd reached a point in my career probably 20 years ago where I felt that I needed to start thinking about some change. And indeed, this came with humanitarian service. And I began doing missions probably in about 2004. And these gradually increased in frequency to the point that by about 2012, I realized that this was going to be a change in my career, a whole paradigm shift for me in what I wanted to do with my life, and to be able to continue with orthopedics, but in a very different way. So it was at that time that the concept of Steps2Walk was born. And I began the organization actually with my wife, who's also an orthopedic foot and ankle surgeon.
Wow.
And she and I started the organization together with fairly limited goals. But it's just exploded. And we are now, as Tom already mentioned, we have 16 programs on this year. Next year, we are scheduled to have 19 programs, and we try to increase the volume and scope of what we're doing by 1 to 2 countries annually. The work that we do, think of it this way. We're orthopedic surgeons, and we love fixing things. But that's not Steps2Walk. Indeed, in the earlier days when I was going on these humanitarian missions, all we were doing were treating disabled children. And that was it. And in fact, the lay public, that's what they think of in terms of mission work. Humanitarian orthopedic work is you fix something. But that on its own is not going to be a sustainable model. And very soon we realized that we needed a different model so that we could serve the millions of children and young adults who are not able to walk. They simply have terrible deformities, and we needed to educate. And it was through education that we really began to achieve our goals.
Yeah.
And we can expand on that as we move on.
Yeah, so you said so much in there that I'm like, I feel like I could have so many different conversations with you about your experience. One of the main things that came to my mind was, I would imagine, the transformation in technology that you've seen throughout your career and the impact that that's had on what you're doing today.
It has had absolutely no impact. And let me tell you and everybody who's going to be listening to this, that technology does not apply in the regions of the world where we work. In fact, it's quite on the contrary. We've gone full circle. The technology in orthopedic implants and materials are phenomenal nowadays, and obviously have changed substantially over the past 3-4 decades since I've been practicing as an orthopedic surgeon. But we have to keep it simple, and you have and to do more with less on these humanitarian programs. And that less means we've gone full circle back to very simple implants. And the technology that we use is simple.
Interesting.
There's nothing terribly complicated and sophisticated about the technology that we use on these humanitarian programs.
Yeah, and now that
the point is, we're actually able to take a deformed foot, and I mean one that where a child is walking, the foot is on backwards. Whether that be from polio or clubfoot deformity or other nerve-generated problem, we can straighten that with almost no implants. We use pins. There's a lot of work involved in the correction and in the actual surgery, but we don't need anything terribly sophisticated to do it.
Wow, that completely surprised me. I was expecting there to be something that you guys were doing in order to fix the deformities that you guys work on. But also, like you said, it makes it so much more accessible for the people in these other countries who maybe don't have access to the same technology and the same resources that we might have.
That's very much the case. Now, having said that, we still need implants, and it does depend a lot on which country we're working in, what hospital in the country, what are their resources, and remember, all of them, not all, but the majority of the places where we are operating, these hospitals are all public state hospitals with very limited resources. But we need implants. We will occasionally ship the implants. It's a very, very strictly controlled process by each country. Each country is slightly different where we work. But the requirements to take implants and ship implants ahead of time is very strictly controlled.
Yeah. Tom, you looked like you were wanting to say something there.
Yeah, I think, Mark pretty much nailed it. There's a lot of support that we try to get from industry to provide and meet some of those implant needs, depending on where the program is. Some countries are more difficult to get product into than other countries. So, there's a lot of coordination behind the scenes to have a program come together.
Yeah.
And, Mark does a lot of that work through his web of network of industry contacts that he's able to get people to lend some support where needed for each individual program.
Yeah, that's amazing. Another thing that you said, Mark, that I want to highlight, because I think a lot of times when people are going into the space of they have something that they're incredibly passionate about and they want to make a difference, but sometimes they get a little bit overwhelmed with where to start. But something that you mentioned with Steps2Walk is you started with very, very limited goals and you had maybe a smaller scope of what you thought you were going to go into.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about where you guys actually started, and then walk us through that path of evolution as to where you're at today.
So let us take any humanitarian program of ours. It begins probably 18 months to 2 years ahead of time. There's a lot of infrastructure planning with a host surgeon, a host surgical team. They don't necessarily have to be subspecialists as we are in the foot and ankle, but there are a lot of resources that we rely on from the local team. We then begin a marketing program to our surgeon volunteers. We have a large number of volunteers globally. We have an active group of volunteers of about 125 surgeons, but many, many more who participate with us. And they volunteer, they donate their time for the 1 week or more of the program where we're working. I've already mentioned that, for the layperson, they see somebody who's got a deformity, and on a humanitarian program, you fix it. But the majority of the emphasis of what we do is education. Because think about it this way, there are millions, and I mean millions of children globally who cannot walk, who have deformities, who've never worn shoes. They can't even walk, can't go to school, they don't get an education. Millions. When we're doing these programs, Tom already mentioned the number of 1,700 surgeries. Well, yes, we do approximately 20 surgeries on each mission. But much more important is to teach the local orthopedic surgeons how to manage these problems. And in doing so, we're then able to expand our platform to thousands, not hundreds. And that's really the essence of what we do. And then there are other aspects to the education, which we will discuss later.
Mark, if I could jump in for 1 second. Mark, would you talk about what a typical program week entails from Monday through Friday?
Certainly. So generally our team, we take a team of 4 surgeons from various parts of the world, and we arrive on the Saturday or Sunday to start getting things ready. On the Monday, surgeons are invited for the entire week from around the country by the local host team or the local host hospital. We spend the Monday teaching. So it's all lectures, conferences, case discussion, educating them on topics that they need to understand to do foot and ankle surgery. On the next day, we examine about 30, in some cases, 40 patients and teach. So the essence of this is not just examining these children, but teaching the surgeons how to examine them. And it's like bedside teaching. So everybody gathers around at the front of the auditorium and we examine these patients and then make decisions as to who ideally is going to benefit from the surgery. Now, I must say, though, that we don't walk in and see these patients and that's the first time that I'm aware of them. No, there's a lot of planning that goes into this because months ahead, we already have a very good idea of the actual children and deformities that we are going to be treating. Mm-hmm. So that's the second day. On the third and fourth day, we do live surgery. We work out of a number of operating rooms in the hospital, and the surgery is live, and the team leader or the surgeon leader in each room, it's wired, the surgery is wired through a moderator into the auditorium. So there's live interaction between us and all the surgeons in the auditorium with a lot of feedback. And we do that in the language of the country. Sometimes we use translators. Many of us are multilingual and are able to run a program in the host country's language. That's for 2 days, and we work very long hours. We will probably work 16-hour days that entire week. On the final day, which is the Friday, for most countries, because in some countries we go on to a 6th day on the Saturday, but we have a cadaver lab. Now that, of course, depends on the availability of cadavers, the culture, the cost. There are many factors that go into deciding, are we going to have a cadaver lab? But that reinforces the procedures that we've done during the week so that the surgeons kind of get a hands-on feel for exactly what has been done. And then in selected countries on the Saturday, we then work with the National Society, the National Orthopedic Society, where we will our faculty participate in their annual meeting. So it's a bonus for them in those countries where that is available.
That's amazing. So you really have it completely set up to not only get people learning, but actually get them hands-on experience while you're there, while you're on the ground.
Now I'm going to continue a little bit more with that hands-on experience because this is where technology really does make a difference. You asked about technology. So we use virtual visual glass technology. There is another company, and I would like to acknowledge them. They're called Ohana One. That organization provides education in using virtual visual glasses. If you remember the old Google glasses, these are much more sophisticated than that. But what it does is connects our mentors around the world with surgeons in remote parts of the world. So we do live surgical training. So that surgeon is trained. We can tell that surgeon where to put a pin, where to make an incision within a millimeter, because we're able to control through a software interface exactly what they're doing. So we have, that's another aspect of what we do. We have many such programs that are running actively globally. And then the last component of continued education, which is so important. So last week I was in Tanzania, and there were surgeons there attending the program. And 2 weeks prior to that, we worked in Pakistan. For each of these programs, There is a chat group that the head of our international programming, Dr. Shuyuan Lee, she sets it up. Now imagine you've got 20 to 40 surgeons who are participating in a chat group so that daily they're posting difficult problems, difficult cases that they need to do, looking for advice and continuing education. So
Yeah.
it's a very broad spectrum of education that we provide.
Yeah, Mark, could you comment about the Steps to Walk Global Institute and how all these
Of course.
individual education components roll up into or fulfilling our education mission component?
I'm going to ask you to do that.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Mark. The Steps to Walk Global Institute was a development that we launched late last year, and it's to house all our different educational components all under one umbrella called the Steps to Walk Global Institute. And what that does, it gives us a lot more substance and credibility as we go in around the globe with the Institute concept and all the educational components. Because in a lot of parts of the underserved areas of the world, they don't have the access that developed countries have for education. And that's where the Global Institute and all the educational programs that Mark is implementing is so critical to fulfilling our education mission.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're only one doctor, and I know that you have a huge network of surgeons that volunteer with you, but when you're on the ground, like you said, you guys are completing 20 surgeries. That's not enough to have the impact on the millions of deformities that there are. So the fact that you guys have created that Global Institute to expand your reach so vastly to start tackling that larger number is incredible. And that technology, I hadn't heard of it before. And then you showed me that clip of it, and I was wowed by the fact that you are literally sitting there directing somebody in a surgery, a live surgery, to be able to attack these issues. It's amazing what you guys are building.
Yeah, that's a very successful aspect of what we do. Very difficult to coordinate because you're dealing with surgeons in different time zones of the world and mentors. So we have the mentee, who is the surgeon working in a remote part of the world, and a mentor somewhere else. And we've got to try to coordinate it all so that it makes a minimum impact on our mentor's time, but maximum impact on the surgeon who needs help. And these surgeons whom we are training, they commit to a 6-month course of training. So this is not just a one-time surgery. They do a surgery weekly under guidance with one of our mentors.
I love that. And you had mentioned when we spoke previously that I believe you said that your surgeons were completing one surgery like this every 6 months. And I think you said now that they're completing more like 3 every single month. Is that right? So, don't go anywhere. This is just a quick word for our amazing sponsors at Koios. In a world craving customized solutions, Koios stands out by offering tailored leadership solutions. Their cutting-edge AI delves deep into personality insights that empowers leaders and business owners to adapt their approach to each team member's unique psychological profile. The result? A surge in motivation and productivity that traditional one-size-fits-all methods cannot match. But they don't stop there. Koios crafts synergistic teams by bringing together diverse personalities, creating an environment where innovation isn't just encouraged, it's actually inevitable. Imagine being able to pinpoint exactly what your team is missing to perform at their best, or have a clear understanding of a new hire's fit, how to lead, and get the best out of them. Koios is helping us redefine leadership and unleashing our clients and your team's potential. Start your journey today and lead with confidence tomorrow. Hit the link below and use code SUMMIT10 at checkout to receive 10% off for the first 3 months. Now, back to the episode, right?
So we have data going back to 2017. And when you look at what these surgeons do in most, not all, but most places where we work, prior to that time, they were doing one or less foot and ankle surgery in 6 months. In 2019, when we went back to look at that data again, they were doing an average of 3 foot and ankle surgeries monthly. So it's an extraordinary change. And it doesn't come from necessarily just from the mission. Remember that we go back. That is probably the most important aspect of what we do, is going back. That creates continuity and sustainability, because many, if not most, of these surgeons who come on the program, they return for continued education.
Right. Right. That's amazing. And when I feel like we have a really good understanding of where you guys are at now, but take me back to the very first mission that you ever did with Steps2Walk. What did that actually look like? Yeah. What did that look like?
Exciting. I'd remember that I'd recently left hospital practice. I'd made this major decision to change my life, my career, and it was very exciting. That first program was held in Rosario, in Argentina, and I remember the faculty very well, and even our surgeon volunteers. We had 2 surgeons come from Barcelona and 1 from Argentina to work on that program, and that got us kick-started, because it was with that in mind that I began to realize the bigger picture. And that picture, honestly, is still evolving, because every country, every location, every hospital has different needs. The program we did last week when we were in Tanzania, there were families traveling for 3 days to get to the hospital where we were working. 3 days, imagine that. And then, fortunately, there was a lot of support from the hospital and another nonprofit organization to house the children and families for up to 6 weeks while they were recovering from our treatment.
That's amazing. So on that very first mission that you had, how many surgeries did you complete then?
That was less. We did 13 surgeries on that particular mission. Remember that there's a lot of efficiency that goes into planning, preparing, and executing a program like this. You have to anticipate the resources and the infrastructure of the local team. And one of the things to acknowledge is it's not only the work that we do, but we must acknowledge and be grateful to the people in these hospitals, in these different countries where we work, because they work long hours. They do it willingly and kindly. And it's that local team, including the nurses, the technicians, the anesthesia team, not just the surgical team that we take along with us. It's everybody comes together. And that's a growing process. There's really a lot that I've learned over the years about this team concept.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If I could just jump in here to add something, and I think it's critical, especially to the title of this podcast, which is Summit Chasers. This would be very difficult for somebody else to replicate what Dr. Myerson has created here. Throughout his career, he has hosted international residents and fellows to be educated, and ultimately they spread out around the world. He's able to bring those people together to make this support network of volunteer surgeons, whether it's the local country host in some countries or the former residents and fellows that are full-fledged orthopedic foot and ankle surgeons that participate as volunteers in our missions. And that's really one of the secret sources that nobody has that reach that Dr. Myerson has.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think because you have such a strong mission and vision that you're working towards, it's probably so almost easy for people to want to jump in. I don't mean like logistically easy. I know that there's so much that goes into it, but because of the impact and the difference that you guys are making in these people's lives, I feel like people are going to be so motivated to want to join in on your cause and to help you. And then you having that added benefit of the reach that you have is incredible. Just to see how you guys have started, I guess, and what it has evolved to, and now having that global institute is really amazing and remarkable, truly.
Right.
What would you say has been some of the standout stories, I guess, of the impact that you've made? I know that you've touched so many people's lives with the work that you're doing, but do you have any stories that are really stand out to you?
There are many. You know, every child or young adult whom we treat, imagine what I said earlier. Their foot is crooked. They're profoundly disabled. We do our work, and it's an emotional experience to see what we've accomplished. But what is even really more wonderful, and this is what stands out, is when we go back, we also have the opportunity to examine a limited number of those individuals we've already treated. It's not easy because the follow-up care of these patients in remote parts of that country where we're working is not easy. They can't always come back for follow-up. But when we do that we really feel blessed. It's a genuine feeling that we've done something good.
Yeah.
And of course, when the accolades come in from other surgeons who have participated in the program and benefited from it, that also makes a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, just put yourself as a parent of one of these individuals with the foot deformity. The range of emotions that these parents and child go through during the course of the week, from number one, will they be selected for surgery? Number two, what will the outcome be? So there's apprehension and trepidations in the beginning of the week. Then when they're selected, the joy and happiness is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And when you see the parents, when their child is being rolled into the OR, the excitement where they were told they had no hope before. And then Steps2Walk comes in, and now there's hope. And that's the emotion is incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine. I feel like I would be in tears all day, all day, just crying. So with doing this work, and I want both of you guys to answer this question. I feel like oftentimes when people dive into this space, or like I said earlier, they're so passionate about what it is they're doing, and they're actively on the ground making this difference. That work shapes you. It has a profound impact on who you are. So starting with Tom, what has it done for you?
Number one, it humbles me and makes me grateful for my own kids and their health. You take things for granted in life all the time. And seeing these patients, the parents, the surgeons after the week of, like Mark said, 16, in some cases, I'm sure it exceeded 16 hours a day. At the end of the week, the joy experienced by everybody is off the charts.
I will echo one word that Tom used, and that's humility. I have been blessed by this opportunity. I've been changed by this position, by this leadership position to run this organization. And it's hard to describe the gamut of emotions that have taken place, the terrible frustrations, the difficulties, the failures, and the learning. Most people don't realize this, but here I am, a professor of orthopedic surgery, and I maintain that if I cannot learn something from one of the local surgeons who may know nothing about foot and ankle surgery. I have failed.
Wow.
Because I have to be able to learn from everyone. You cannot be an educator unless you're prepared to learn from your students. It's terribly important. And that learning process may not apply to a surgical technique. It may be the local culture.
Right.
It may be something pertaining to the people of that region or that country. That's very, very important as well.
Yeah. Can you quote that for us one more time? Because I think that that's an amazing thing. And I wish that more educators would have that same thought. So say that for me one more time.
I will. That you cannot be an educator unless you're prepared to learn from your students.
Yep.
And I don't care in what field you are. We're obviously talking about orthopedic surgery here, but it's in every field. I truly believe that. You have to open yourself to new ideas, new opportunities. And the only way you're going to do that is to learn from others, even your students.
Ultimately, it's an honor to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is such an important reminder for people to hear, because oftentimes when they end up in that educator space or in a leadership space, they sometimes think that they're the smartest in the room and that they have all the answers to everything. But truly, in order to continue to grow and to level yourself up, you have to be able to, like you said, be willing to learn from those around you and just open yourself up to new ideas, new thoughts, new cultures, whatever it might be, in order to then further expand your reach. But if you're not doing that, you're only ever going to get so far. You're going to grow stagnant and you're not going to be able to have that impact and that reach that you want to, really. So I love that so much. That might even be the title of this. I love it.
I want to leave you with another thought. And it's a very powerful thought, that we as surgeons in the Western world, we're accustomed to doing things in a certain way. There's remuneration for your work. You are reimbursed. But I will tell you that you will never experience anything to the full until you treat somebody who does not have the means to ever repay you. And that is my personal mantra.
Yeah.
You cannot do humanitarian work and travel the globe unless you truly believe this, because it's a very profound and emotional concept when you see these people struggling, and you know that they can't ever repay you.
Right.
And it's such a blessing.
We have some surgeon volunteers that go on 2 or 3 programs a year to volunteer. That's the kind of impact it has on some of the volunteers, as Mark is pointing out. It really touches deep in your heart, and you want to go back to the basics of why you became a surgeon. And this brings them and humbles them and brings them right back to kind of that starting baseline.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I think that's so true too. And you have to really lean into that and embrace the fact that you are helping people who will never be able to repay you. But that's where it fills your heart so much, because you know that you're making a huge difference in their life. And I think that should be payment enough, really. And I think for a lot of people who get into that line of work, it is, right?
That's correct.
I have two final questions for you guys. And again, I want you both to answer these. So we'll start with the first one, and that is, what is the impact that you want to have made when you are gone? And Tom, I'm going to start with you.
Could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
Of course. What is the impact that you want to have made when you're gone?
For me, a sustainable organization with people that are heavily engaged in fulfilling the mission and the vision of the organization, and making sure all those components are interwoven and operating seamlessly for good execution in all our fulfilling our mission and our vision.
In the future, yeah. So you guys essentially want it to outlive you so that people can continue to go on this path and have that impact. I love that. Mark, how about you?
Well, I'm in a hurry. I'm in a hurry because I don't know how long I'm going to be around, but I want our organization to be available in every region in the world where our service can be valuable. That's what I'd like to accomplish. Now, of course, I'm going to leave a legacy and others are going to take it over.
Absolutely.
But that's my goal. That's the impact, the long-term impact that I'd like to create.
And you're well on the way, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really.
Absolutely. And then what summit are you currently chasing? So if you guys want to go Steps to Walk wise, we can talk about that. If you have a personal summit that you're chasing, we can also go there.
I have one personal goal, summit, to be more humble, to recognize that I have been blessed. I'm an immigrant to this country. I had opportunity and I gave back. And it's that ability to give back and maintain humility is very important.
That's incredible. Tom, how about you?
For me, it has to do that I'm just a piece of the bigger picture of what Steps to Walk is all about. And I view it as an honor for myself to be a part of that. And it goes back to the humbleness, agreeing with Mark's vision of this organization to provide a quality, accessible foot and ankle care to everybody worldwide, regardless of the ethnic background or religious affiliation. And that is taking place in real time in a very troubled world nowadays. And to be part of this type and see people from all backgrounds come together for the common good of humanity is something that is absolutely fabulous. It's an amazing feeling.
Amazing. How can our listeners support Steps to Walk?
Yeah, we just recently launched a campaign, a fundraising campaign called Stepping Together. And the goal of Stepping Together is to draw charitable foundations, large corporations, small corporations, employees within those companies or corporations where there's matching gift opportunities, and individual donors and wealthy individuals to help support us, because we could not do what we do without the support of so many others out there. As you could imagine, there's a lot to coordinate and plan and a lot of expenses associated in what we do. And we really need the support. So if anybody's interested in donating, I'll put a little pitch, steps2walk.org, and you can donate. If you're interested, there's a way to participate in the Stepping Together campaign. If you're a large corporation that could get involved and work with us and help us and support giving the gift of walking to so many of those that most need it around the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today. The absolute best of luck to you guys both and to Steps to Walk. It's so exciting to just know where you guys started and where you are today and the impact and the reach that you're having. So really, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, maybe you'd like to come on a program someday.
Yeah.
And do a follow-up.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Rodrina. Been a pleasure.
You. Likewise.
Bye.
And that wraps up another episode of Voices of Impact. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you found value in our conversation, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more inspiring stories and actionable advice, make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Also, we would love to hear your thoughts and takeaways, so please leave us a comment below. And remember, no matter where you are on your journey, you have the power to climb higher and chase your summit. Until next time, Summit Chasers, keep pushing forward and stay inspired.